Sweet November has finally arrived, and it's definitely the time of year that we've been waiting for. All year round we've been working our tails off to get to this point. Opening day is great, but it's really those first couple weeks of November that get me super pumped up, and I know a lot of you too. So November arrived, we had a couple nice little cold fronts, and we were excited. So let's take a look at how some of those hunts went for the team. We hit it really hard and spent a lot of time in the tree across Wisconsin, Michigan, and Iowa. So let's see how all that went, and maybe we had some luck, maybe we didn't, but we definitely had some fun. So we kicked things off with Pete out in Iowa. Obviously, being out there in Iowa, there's a lot of fun to be had with those big bucks.
Go for some tenderloin right now, but looks like lockdown pretty good, so I guess a sandwich will do for now.
I think he was a perfect example this season, and particularly during this November, first couple weeks of November time period, of letting those young bucks go so they can grow up to reach their full potential. And that's a great lesson to be learned, I think, especially during this time of year when you can see so many bucks. By letting those little ones go, they can reach that full maturity, and that's really where you want to take them. Because of that management in the area, there's then the opportunity he's had to see some of ththose really big bucks, those 160s and giant 8-pointers. So I think that his management's really starting to pay off, and it's definitely paid off in the film and the deer he's been able to see. So then across Michigan and Wisconsin, you have Corey, Brandon.
The Dallas Fort Worth mustache doesn't work for me. The Karens have to.
Ross, Dustin, they've been hunting their tails off too. They had great ruts, saw lots and lots of deer. But I think a big thing we learned through their hunts and mine is that perseverance is really the name of the game during the rut.
That deer was nice. It's not what we came here for, though. I had him at 15 yards. Sorry if the video was a little shaky. I got bug fever a little bit. So, I'm still shaking. And he wasn't like a monster or anything. It's just a nice buck that's gonna hopefully turn into something good.
You have to hunt smart, but at the same time, this time of year, it's really about being in the right place at the right time and sometimes getting a little lucky. So, put yourself in a good position, but then you need to just spend the hours in the tree. Save those vacation time, those vacation days, get out in the woods during the first week or two of November, put in your time and it can pay off. So, if anything, perseverance really might be the number one thing you need to focus on during the rut. So as exciting as the hunting is during the rut, I think one of the other great things about this time of year is the camaraderie. And my big rut really kicked off with my family coming down to visit. My dad and best friend Josh came down to my new property that last weekend in October. And we just had a blast. It was great to be out in the woods and to show them around my new place. But at the same time, just to have a cold one, share stories, relax, eat some good food, and watch the game. Just being together is a lot of fun, and being able to share my new hunting property is just a blast on top of that. So we had a lot of fun, saw some deer, but things really got kicked off a couple days later when my vacation began. So on this kind of hunting vacation, 6 straight days, hunting all day, that can really wear on you. I love it to death.
Well, it's Thursday morning, November 3rd. It is sweet November, finally here. Today is my first day of my 11-day rut hunt. I've got 6 days here in Michigan, 5 down in Ohio. Hunting all day, every day. Hopefully gonna get it done. It's windy, cool this morning. Still haven't seen anything come through, but feeling pretty good about the day. So we're hunkered down.
out there for 13 straight hours with nothing to do when the times are bad but sit and think. And over my 6-day rut hunt in Michigan, I had a lot of time to think about the mistakes I made, the changes I wish I had, things I wish I had went about differently. It kind of haunts you. I made my share of mistakes, and I've had some close calls where things didn't come together, so that can just really, really grind on you. Long days, freezing your tail off. You're whooped. You wake up every morning at 4 in the morning and think, why didn't I take up golf? But you know, in the long run, it does pay off, and those couple seconds where that big buck comes out, it can really make it all worth it. So it's definitely a love-hate relationship, but luckily when you're out there, like I was during the 6-day period where I did end up seeing a lot of deer, a lot of young bucks, it's all worth it. It's a lot of fun. During this hunt, I really had a couple big lessons that were hammered home for me too, and they kind of interestingly were bookended on either end of my hunt with the 2 big bucks that I did see in Michigan. And that first experience was my second day of my 6-day trip, and I learned about being ready for everything and anything, and making sure you had your standards set properly.
It is a cold morning, 2nd day of my rut hunt, and I just might have really screwed up. About 15 minutes ago, I heard a deer moving behind me. I grabbed my bow and slowly looked behind, and I immediately saw it was a buck, and I knew it was a decent buck. But as I turned to try and look at it better, he was moving pretty quickly. And at first glance, I just thought he was a small 8-pointer, just a little 2.5-year-old. Very quickly he moved through where I could shoot him out into the open. Once he got out in the open, grabbed the camera, put it on him, zoomed in a little more, looked at him. After looking at him and filming him, I thought, maybe I should have shot him. Actually, he might be a 3.5-year-old. He's a pretty decent 8-pointer now. He's not a giant, but a decent buck. He'd be a good buck for me, probably. But he was borderline for what I've been looking for this year. So I'm sitting here kicking myself. Should I have shot that deer? Will I get another chance, even a decent buck like that? I don't know. So, I'm a little frustrated, a little shook it up even.
4 days after that experience with the big 8-pointer, I had my next good encounter. But in between those 2 points, I definitely hit a low, I'd say. You know, after passing on that buck, I definitely had some serious regrets. I sat in the tree stand just kicking myself. What did I do? I passed on, you know, the one decent buck I might see all year, and it actually has sort of been the case. So it just hurts to miss an opportunity like that after you work so hard. So I was definitely wearing on myself, had some sleepless nights, some long days in the tree stand. I was getting down. But luckily I was persistent, kept on hunting, kept going out there, and I think that's another major lesson I've learned, or at least hammered home, is just the fact you got to keep going at it, and you can't let yourself get too down. Hunting is supposed to be fun, so enjoy the nature, enjoy the woods, and keep going at it, because it can all change just in a second. And that really happened with my last night out there. I didn't think anything was going to happen, but a front came through. It got really rainy and windy, and that sort of got me a little excited again, because I know how those fronts can get the deer moving. I started having a little feeling. And believe it or not, maybe 45 minutes before dark, in this tall swamp grass, rain blowing in my face and just nasty, I just see this big tine sticking out. Right when my heart gets beaten, and I was pumped. And he takes a couple steps and he pulls the head up, and my jaw dropped. I couldn't believe it. There was 6-shooter. You know, the #1 buck I've been after all year. I've been dreaming of this buck. I've had 3 other really close encounters. I've watched him at about 60 yards for 7 hours. so I know him really well, and I've just been dying to see him again. Well, here he was, 45 yards away. But over the course of the next 10-15 minutes, he very slowly started moving my direction, but it looked like he was injured. And you might have read about this on the blog, but I got really worried that he might have been shot by another hunter. He seemed hunched up and was just kind of staggering, moving really slowly, and I was almost worried he was going to keel over and die right there. But he bedded down about 40 yards away, and he sat there for 20-25 minutes, and it just got too dark. Couldn't see him anymore, and eventually my chances were gone. I was really actually worried that he was going to be dead the next morning, so I was able to sneak out that night. Next morning, came back in, searched around the area, never found him, never found any blood, so I'm hoping that he made it. But that experience really, I was that far away. If he had came another 10 yards closer, I could have had him. So it really, helped me remember that you just got to keep at it, because just in a blink, things could change, and I was super close to really closing the deal. So looking back, at this rut for 2011, I think persistence was really the name of the game. If there was any lesson hammered home for me, and really for the rest of the team, it's just that you need to persevere through the good times and the bad. And if you put your time in, you get a little bit lucky, good things can happen. So make sure you tune in next time when persistence finally does pay off.
We're in Ohio. It has been brutal. November 15th, Michigan's worst day of the year.